Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending the workshop on doing business with the City of Chicago. My name is Julie Krupa, and I'm an attorney with the Department of Procurement Services. So today we're going to cover several topics about how to do business with us. Where's the clicker? Nope. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so starting with our mission statement. So the Department of Procurement Services, we're the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. And we pledge to work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. And integrity, public trust, and the law are our guiding principles. And so the laws governing the procurement process, there's state law and there's also city ordinances. So the Municipal Purchasing Act is a state law that governs all of the city's procurement. And then the Chapter 292 of the Municipal Code of Chicago are all of the city ordinances that govern our purchases. So these are the guiding principles for how we procure goods and services. So going into the types of procurements, it's not matching up. A little technical difficulties.
Go ahead, follow yours, and I'll go back and try to match it up. Just follow your
Oh, okay. Sorry, everyone. The slides are not matching up to what I'm saying, but we'll try to remedy that. So I'm going to move into the types of procurements that we do. So we have small orders, competitive bids, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, and job order contracts. So first I'm going to touch on small orders. So these are procurements for goods and services that are under $100,000. And it's not a formal specification or bid that goes publicly advertised. What we'll do is we'll solicit quotes by telephone, fax, written quotation, and they're posted on DPS website. W and MBE certified vendors are solicited first, and for any small order over $10,000, compliance with MBE WBE is required. Is it matched up now? So next is competitive bids. So this is anything $100,000 and over, and this is the formal bidding process. So these are advertised. We use the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper. They're also available on our website, and they're available in the bid and bond room and also DPS tracker, or DPS alert, excuse me. There's a bid solicitation period of 10 to 30 days. By law, it has to be at least 10 days. And there's occasionally going to be a deposit, depending on the type of bid that you'll have to make a bid deposit. So pre-bid meetings, there occasionally, or I shouldn't say occasionally, some of our procurements have a pre-bid meeting where this could involve a site inspection of the work. So for example, a construction project, after the pre-bid meeting, we might take you out to the site of where you'll be doing work so you could see that and get a feel for it. These are optional. Even though they are optional, we do encourage that you attend. It's an opportunity to review the specifications. We have a Q&A period. We can answer any questions and concerns about the specs. And then it could result in an addendum or clarification being issued based on those questions we get or any sort of concerns that arise during that process. If there's not a pre-bid meeting, we strongly encourage that you review all the specifications to make sure that you understand what it is that we're seeking and the contract documents. And then if you have any questions, the person that you need to contact is the contract administrator with the Department of Procurement Services, who is listed in the bid advertisement. That's the only person that you should be reaching out to. So if you're interested in bidding, what you need to do is complete the bid documents. So you need to fill in all of the required information. This goes to a responsiveness of your bid. If any documents are required, you need to make sure that you give us those documents. If you don't, it could end up in your bid not being considered and rejected. You have to make sure that you do your math and that you're putting your correct bid in there so that we're not getting called with mistakes because we can't accept some. You need to sign and execute the document, and you also need to make sure it's notarized. So if there is a bid deposit required, you need to make sure that you're submitting the bid deposit in the form, in an appropriate form. We can't accept cash. A bid deposit, if required, is usually about 5% of the bid, and it's normally refundable. However, there are instances when it's not refundable, and we will inform you of what the bid deposit is required and if it is or is not refundable. And very important, you need to make sure that your bid submittal is timely. It has to be submitted before 11 a.m. on the day the bid is due, and the bid opening date, excuse me. So when is bid opening? That occurs here. It is 103 at City Hall. It is Monday through Friday, except for major holidays, at 11 a.m. Bids are opened and read aloud, and the bids are tabulated. The bid tabulation and the bid documents are reviewed for accuracy and completeness, and they are available online at our website, the DPS website, within 24 hours after bid opening. So for the award process, after we have opened and tabulated all the bids, we need to determine if the bidder is responsible and responsive. And after that, we recommend award based on who is the lowest bidder and the responsive and responsible bidder. Acceptable bids are packaged, and the bid and contract documents are routed for signature and approval process. And after that point, if there is a performance payment bond or insurance required, we will ask for that, and then we'll also ask for our funding agency to concur if that's required. And like I mentioned, the contract will be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, meeting the city's specifications. And just to clarify, when we mean responsive, we mean that you're meeting what we've asked for. You're going to give us the right product and service that we've asked for in our bid documents, that you've completed the bid correctly, you've submitted it on time, you've met what we've asked of you. And responsible means you're actually capable of performing. So you're financially responsible, you have the tools and equipment needed to be able to perform for us. So that is competitive bids. I'm going to move on to requests for proposals now. And this is a method used when, if we're implementing a new project and we need specialized professional services, if we don't have in-house technical experts and we need a specialized knowledge to be able to complete something for us, we'll use an RFP. The RFP will define the objectives and the scope of services, but it's not necessarily going to lay out every detail of what we need to have implemented. That gives us an opportunity for the proposers to tell us how you're going to solve our problem for us. And how you're going to best meet our needs. So this requires a detailed evaluation of proposals by an evaluation committee. The evaluation criteria are stated in the RFP, so you will know ahead of time exactly how we're going to evaluate your proposals. And low price is not the only factor. There could be other things that are important to the city, such as the qualifications of the firm or the employees that work for you. An award is made to the highest rated and ranked respondent. Request for qualification. This is a qualifications-based procurement method based on the name. It's a method used to solicit qualifications from companies who possess a high degree of technical expertise and knowledge in specific disciplines. The city will pre-qualify companies to build a vendor pool to award future task orders or individual projects. The evaluation and selection is based on qualifications and technical competence. So for A&E RFQs, price is not part of the evaluation and cost is not part of the proposal. A fee schedule is negotiated after as part of the master agreement. And this is most commonly used for A&E design contracts and for certain other types of consulting. And the last type of contract method that we use is job order contracts. So JOC is a firm fixed price, competitively bid, indefinite quantity contract specifically designed for each department's construction program. So this method is used to accomplish small and medium-sized projects. So instead of bidding out every small and mid-sized construction project, what we can do is use JOC, and we will award a master or umbrella contract, and then the general contractor will be awarded job orders under that JOC contract up to a potential maximum value that was advertised with the JOC contract. So general contractors will respond to an advertised JOC specification that's going to include a unit price book or task order catalog that includes set prices for various construction tasks with a description, a unit of measure, and unit price for each task. And then JOC is awarded to a general contractor offering the most favorable adjustment factors against the price book. So work performed during normal working hours and work performed other than normal working hours, so overtime, weekends, various factors like that. And the value of JOC is going to depend on the departmental needs and the budget. So I'm going to move into certification. So there's 5 types of certification: MBE, minority-owned business enterprise; WBE, women-owned business enterprise; BEPD, business enterprises owned or operated by people with disabilities; DBE, disadvantaged business enterprises; and ACDBE, which is airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. And the basic eligibility requirements are the businesses must be 51% or more owned and controlled by a minority, a woman, or another individual, disadvantaged individual. And under the BEPD program, it must be at least 51% owned and or operated or controlled by an individual with a disability.
Do you want to mention that there is a 6th certification, the veteran?
Yes, there is also now, it's not on the slide, but there's also a 6th certification for veteran-owned business enterprises. So these are small businesses that are owned by 51% or more owned and controlled by a veteran. So with certification comes contract monitoring and compliance. So the Department of Procurement Services is going to monitor the actual utilization of MBEs, WBEs, and DBEs that have been listed as subcontractors on a compliance plan, and will also ensure compliance with the Chicago residency ordinance requirements and equal opportunity commitments. So the Chicago residency ordinance requires for construction contracts valued at $100,000 or more funded by the City of Chicago that 50% of the total work hours performed on that contract must be performed by actual residents of the City of Chicago. And not on this slide, but also in this ordinance, is 7.5% of the total work hours must be performed by project area residents, and we'll define in the specification what the project area is so you know that ahead of time. And for equal employment opportunity, in order to promote equality of opportunity for minority and female personnel on city-funded construction projects, an award criteria determination is going to be inserted into each contract specification that is estimated at $100,000 or more. And bidders are invited to propose the minority and female employee utilization goals. And how do you achieve compliance? So you can achieve in a number of ways. The prime can be an MBE, WBE, or DBE. You can form a joint venture with an MBE, WBE, or DBE. You can subcontract a portion of a work to one or more MBE, WBE, or DBEs. Or you can purchase materials that are used in the performance of the contract by one or more MBE, WBE, or DBEs. There are reporting requirements associated with these programs. The prime subcontractor has to submit a monthly subcontractor payment certification forms, weekly certified payrolls, and waivers of lien so that we can make sure that you're actually employing the MBE, WBE, and DBEs that you've listed that you will in your compliance plan and that you're paying them appropriately. We also have a number of programs and bid initiatives. There's the Small Business Initiative for Construction. These are projects valued at $3 million or less. There's the Diversity Credit Program, which is a credit for the use of MBE, WBE firms on private sector contracts. There's the Mentor Protege Program, which offers a credit and a bid incentive for entering into a mentoring partnership with an MBE, WBE, or using a subcontractor that's entered into a mentoring agreement with an MBE, WBE. This is to promote developing MBE and WBEs. There's also a number of bid incentives. There's a small business enterprise for construction, the veteran-owned business enterprise, the business enterprises owned by people with disabilities, city-based manufacturers, city-based businesses, apprentice utilization. There's also a new ex-offender apprentice utilization incentive, and alternately powered vehicles. And also there's one other program I forgot to mention. There's also a mid-sized business initiative for construction, and this is for projects of $10 million and less. So there's a number of opportunities to strengthen small and mid-sized businesses and MBWBs. So a lot of this information I've given you is on our website, which is a really helpful tool if you're trying to familiarize yourself with how to do business with the City of Chicago. On our website, we have awarded contracts and modifications, a list of payments. You can find the bid tabulations, weekly bid opportunities. You can search through the MWBE directory if you're interested in partnering with an MWBE or if you're looking for subcontractors. There's all the bid incentives that I've mentioned in the programs and all of the regulations that we have to follow. And here's our website, which is www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. So from our webpage, you can get to this section of our website where you can actually search through all of our vendors, our contracts, and our payments. So you can select what you want to search for. Let's say, example, you want to search for contract and award. You would click on that tab, and it would bring you to this page. And then you can enter in the vendor name, the contract number, the department name, who purchased the contract. For example, CDOT, the specification number, and any other of the information you might know. And for this example, we searched for a contract number 4848, and that came up with one result there. And if you were to click on that to say, I want to see what all the payments were for it, you could click and you can see all of the different payment amounts that have been made under that contract all the different modifications that have been made to this contract. So here there were 9 modifications made to this contract, and you can see the different values that were associated with that. Now on to payments. You can also search in here for information about payments made to different vendors. And as we mentioned, the bid tabulations are also available on here if you're interested in seeing the bid tabulations. So we also have a social media presence. There is Facebook and Twitter. We will post bid advertisements and addenda, upcoming workshops and events, and new policies and procedures that affect vendor community. So thank you for listening. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away.
This is a great time to pick our brain. And
Great.
I went through that very quickly, I know.
Does the City of Chicago accept unsolicited proposals?
We do not, as far as I'm aware. We have a competitive open bidding process to ensure fairness and openness and transparentness. So we have these methods of procurement, and that's how we would prefer to have bidders responding to these methods.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask my other? Or
Sure.
come back to me. In regards to the MBE, WBE, if you are a WBE, the MBE, and you bid on a RFP as as the prime, do you meet compliance, or do you still need to go and partner with?
Oh, if you are an MBE, WBE, and you're bidding or submitting a proposal on a project, you can meet your compliance goal by actually being an M or WBE.
Okay.
So that is one way to meet compliance and meet the goal.
Thank you.
Couple questions. So can you talk a little bit more about the subcontracting and joint venture opportunities? And does that apply to all firms or firms that have already been certified with City of Chicago as an MBE or WBE?
So to be eligible for any of the bid incentives or programs that I mentioned, you do need to be certified as one of MBE, WBE,
Already.
VB, BE, PD. Were there any specific of the programs that I mentioned that I could touch on? I know I hit a lot of them.
I would know either on the website or from you, what are the rules around kind of subcontracting and having a joint venture with another firm?
Well, I can speak to if you're, one way to meet the MBE, WBE goals that are set for a contract is to form a joint venture with a certified MBE, WBE.
Okay.
They have to perform a commercially useful function in order to meet the goal. I think if you want more specifics, it might be something we could talk offline about, because I don't want to just...
Bid incentives class.
Yes.
We'll really into the specifics
Yeah.
of the different bid incentives.
Yes, I was going to say I could talk for an hour just on the bid incentive program. So, but if you have any specific questions, if I can give you my email address.
Okay.
It's julie.krupa. Oh, sorry, the microphone. It's julie.krupa, which is KRUPA, and the number 2 @cityofchicago.org.
I had a few questions to ask. So one
Sure.
is on the limitation of liability. I mean, is there a LOL kind of requirement for any of the work we do?
A-
Limitation of liability?
A
on the
limitation of liability.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk offline about that? Because I think that goes to our contract-specific terms, and
Okay,
we
so
can.
it would vary by contract.
Yes.
But
Okay.
we have a master service agreement, which covers the limitation of liability for all the contracts for the firm.
I believe the Department of Law has templates for all of our contracts
Okay.
on their
On the
website. If
liability
you
side.
search the Department of Law, they have all of our standard contracts. So you'll be able to see, so you can kind of familiarize with yourself
Sure.
with the different types of contracts we use and the types of terms and conditions that are in them.
So just as a follow-up on his question on joint venture or partnering with an DB or MWB, is there a requirement, if we do enter into a joint venture, is there a requirement to submit those relevant documents to show that there is a joint venture, some agreement being signed by the two parties between them?
Well,
Any legal?
Yeah, in our contract documents, you'll see a section with, or special conditions for the MBE, WBE program, and that will set forth all the requirements for what you actually need to demonstrate to us to be able to get credited for that.
Okay.
There's also information on our website that can help you with.
Sure. Last question.
Sure.
Payment terms, I mean, do they vary by bids, or is there a standard term which you apply for every bid we have?
For
Payment terms.
payment terms, again, I think I would refer you to our standard templates, because you
Okay.
can see what's typical in our contracts. Also, all of our contracts are available online, so if there's a certain type of contract that you're interested in, you can see
You
what
can
we've
see
done
that.
in the past for various contractors.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Insurance, is it contract-based on insurance requirements?
Yeah, insurance is going to vary on a contract by
And
contract
then-
basis.
You mentioned rating the respondent.
Mm-hmm.
What goes into that rating?
So for RFPs and RFQs, it varies. RFPs, it really depends on what it is that we're procuring. The using department and the Department of Procurement Services, they'll work together to come up with what it is that we're going to evaluate based on, and then we're going to put that in the RFP, so you'll know ahead of time, but it varies contract by contract. It could be qualifications of the firm. It could be you have to have employees that have 10 years experience, just coming up with examples, but it really depends on what it is that we're seeking. But you'll know ahead of time because we'll advertise it so you can, RFQs, on the other hand, are qualifications. So RFQ, request for qualifications. So what we want is to know, how qualifications about your firm, qualifications about the individuals working for you who are going to be performing for us.
And then my last question at the moment
Mm-hmm.
is notarize your complete bid documents.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go a little more in detail about when you're turning in your bid, so say it's your first time,
Mm-hmm.
what gets notarized? Is that part of the?
I wish I had a bid packet in front of me so I could answer these questions more specifically. Each page that needs to be notarized will tell you it needs to be notarized. There'll be
Oh,
a
it will.
section on
Okay.
there, so yeah. But like, for example, the signature pages where you're, the page where you're putting your bid on, so that'll need to be notarized.
I was going to mention that there is a class on how to respond to an RFP. So if you've never submitted one before, I would definitely encourage you to come to that one because we will go through an entire bid solicitation as well as the master template at the end that has the specifics to give you a sample of what our solicitation looks like and what a final contract would look like. Any other questions?
I know you mentioned the RFP, there's a details session going on, but you do everything online, the submission of the RFPs, and or you come and meet with the committee and present it and go through the process of defending the proposal and so on and so forth.
So not every procurement, so if you submit a proposal, you're not guaranteed an opportunity to come in and present. The RFP will give all the instructions for how we're going to run our procurement, but typically after the evaluation, or excuse me, the proposals are evaluated, if we do take oral presentations, then some vendors will be invited in, but not all are automatically invited to come give a presentation. And we are moving towards e-procurement, but right now, RFPs, we don't have e-procurement for.
Right. And I did want to mention too, so there's 3 phases to the evaluation process. The phase 1 is your required documentation. So that's like a checklist of what the required documents are. And we'll go one by one to see if you've even met and submitted all your required documents. So it's really important for you to really read through the RFP, RFQ, or whatever our bid solicitation is on what your required documents are. Because if you don't have them in phase 1, you might not even be able to move on to phase 2. The phase 2 part of the evaluation committee, which is made up of different people from the user department who are buying this, as well as people from procurement, potentially people from law, or any other subject matter experts from the outside, would be part of the evaluation committee. Phase 2 is the evaluation amongst the evaluation committee members of each individual proposal. And that has its own qualifications, its own criteria. They set up their own criteria. And then at the end, it's tallied offline by whoever the contract administrator is. So there's, once the scores are done, there's no changes. And then phase 3 is the oral presentations or on-site meeting. And that sometimes is applicable, sometimes it's not. It just depends on a project-by-project basis.
One last question. So we also deal with something called proof of concept. I mean, it may be some idea we have. It's not an RFP, it's not an RFQ, but it's a new idea we have and we want to pitch it, right? Are we allowed to, is there a process to maybe approach that angle? It's a new idea, for example, which we want to present to. Do we have to still go through DPS for that if we have to get awarded those kind of projects?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about it. Yeah.
We can talk about potential scenarios. It just depends if it's a service that a user department needs. I think probably would be with the user department, but that's something we could probably talk offline. Anyone else?
The Chicago residency requirement, is that just for construction contracts, or is it for all?
It's for construction contracts valued at over $100,000.
Okay. And then the 7.5% that you had mentioned that was not on the slide, is that also encompassed in the?
Yes. that's
Okay.
transaction.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? No? Great. Well, thank you guys so much. And just as a reminder, we have 2 workshops next week. The first one is at 2 o'clock called Procurement Fundamentals. That will be here in room 103. And the second workshop is doing business with our sister agencies. And the 2 featured sister agencies is the Chicago Housing Authority and Public Building Commission. So if you're interested to learn how to procure and do business with them, I would come next Wednesday, and that will be in room 1103. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.